Module 7 Project Cost Management. Module Overview. Project cost management includes the processes involved in planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing and controlling costs so that the project can be completed within the approved budget. That's from PMBOK Guide, page 331. What will we be covering in this module? 7.0 Project Cost Management Module Overview, which is this video. 7.1 Plan Cost Management, the process of defining how the project costs will be estimated, budgeted, managed, monitored and controlled. 7.2 Estimate Costs, the process of developing an approximation of the monetary resources needed to complete project work. 7.3 Determine Budget, the process of aggregating the estimated costs of individual activities of work packages to establish an authorised cost baseline. 7.4 Control Costs, the process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project costs and manage changes to the cost baseline. Key concepts for project cost management. Project cost management is primarily concerned with the cost of the resources needed to complete project activities. However, modern trends in the last number of years mean that the project should be considered as a whole life cycle, from the start of the project through to the final retirement of the product, and not just to the end of the project. This means creating products that will be economical to maintain, manage and support. Project cost management should consider the effects of project decisions on the subsequent recurring cost of using, maintaining and supporting the product, service or result of the project. Back in the 1970s and 80s, the Buick Skyhawk, Chevy Monza, Pontiac Sunbird and Oldsmobile Sunfire were all essentially the same car with a different badge, but all with the same serious design flaw. Back in those days, sparking plugs had to be changed very often. The engine compartment was small, but the 3.8 litre V6 engine was very large for the compartment. And so in order to change the spark plugs on the right hand side of the engine, you had to disconnect the engine mounts on that side and winch it up with a chain hoist just to get access to the sparking plugs. With modern projects, this would not be acceptable to produce this type of car because you'd have to consider the product to the end of its useful life. In fact, many people couldn't afford the expense or work involved with changing the spark plugs, and so many of them changed just the 3 spark plugs on the left hand side, and that made the cars perform really poorly, made them look even worse than what they were. There was another poorly designed car, the Datsun SPL 310, and you had to actually remove the carburetors just to change the air filter. On your own projects, you may decide to cut corners to save time or money, but they will probably come back to bite you. For example, limiting the number of design reviews can reduce the cost of a project, but this could increase the resulting product's operating costs, such as the cars I've just mentioned. Another aspect of cost management is recognizing the different stakeholders measure project costs in different ways and at different times. For example, the cost of an acquired item may be measured when the acquisition decision is made or committed, the order is placed, the item is delivered, or when the actual cost is incurred or recorded for project accounting purposes. This can be problematic, especially with long duration projects, if you have forgotten to take inflation into account. And of course, with international projects or where you're importing goods or offshore services are used, then you can get some surprises, either good or bad, with the changes in the currency exchange rate. Have a look at the exchange rate for the Australian dollar for the last 10 years in 2017. This is from the website tradingeconomics.com. Suppose you are an Australian organisation that signed a 4-year contract in 2012 with a US-based company with payment upon completion of $1 million US. The exchange rate was about 1.08, so your expected payment was $925,925 Australian, but when the contract is completed in 2016, you have to pay $1 million US. But as the Australian exchange rate plummeted against the US dollar during that time down to 0.7. This means you actually have to pay a massive 1,428,471 Australian dollars. That's an incredible increase of $500,000 just because the currency rate changes. Depending upon the size of the organisation, that could be enough to wipe out the company. And yet the performing contracted organisation in the US would not get 1 cent more. In these organisations, predicting and analysing the prospective financial performance of the project is performed outside of the project. The reason is that these areas are like a financial minefield, and so they're best left to financial experts and senior management who have overall responsibility for the organisation and the level of risk it's exposed to. With other organisations, especially with the amounts involved are not particularly big, the predictions may be done within the project. These will make use of standard financial management techniques such as return on investment, discount cash flow and investment payback analysis. Trends and emerging practices in project cost management. The PMBOK guide says on page 233, within the practice of project cost management, trends include the expansion of earned value management, EVM, to include the concept of earned schedule, ES. Earned schedule is the extension to the theory of the practice of EVM. Earned schedule theory replaces the schedule variance measurement used in traditional earned value management with earned schedule and actual time, AT. Using the alternative equations for calculating schedule variances, ES and AT, if the amount of earned schedule is greater than 0, then a project is considered ahead of schedule. In other words, the project earned more than planned at a given point in time. The Schedule Performance Index, the SPI, using standard schedule metrics is ES over AT. This indicates the efficiency with which work is being accomplished. Earned schedule theory also provides formulas for forecasting and project completion date using earned schedule, actual time and estimated duration. We will not be covering earned schedule management calculations in this course as they are still not considered mainstream and the calculations will not yet appear in the examination. But if you're interested in learning more about it, you'll find it in PMI's Practice Standard for Earned Value Management 2nd edition, which you can purchase from PMI, or if you're a member of PMI, you can download electronic copies of Practice Standards free of charge. Tailoring considerations. A list of things to consider for tailoring without any guidance on how you should tailor your project are contained in the PMBOK guide on page 234. We've reached the end of Project Cost Management Module Overview. The next lesson is 7.1 Plan Cost Management. Please read the corresponding chapter in the PMBOK guide before watching the video so you can get the most out of the video.